Hi, my name is Matteo Lana, and I'm the CEO and founder of Tiny Bull Studios, a software development company based in Turin, Italy. I got my master's degree in virtual reality and multimedia from the University of Turin in 2011, and since then, with my team that now counts over 20 professionals, I've worked on several virtual reality experiences, applied games, and training simulations. So I like to think I have some experience in the subject. Today, I would like to tell you what I think makes a good or bad VR experience. Let's start with the good. It has been proven that a good VR experience is a great way of learning something new, because our brain can be tricked into thinking that we actually lived a certain situation, and that helps it retain more information than it normally would if someone just told us about a certain experience or certain notions. In order to achieve that, we need presence, which is the feeling of actually being somewhere else. To get presence, we need several things, but among the most important, we can remember immersion, which is representing the world in a believable way. So something that has visual cues, of course. You need to have graphics, which can be realistic or not, but you have to show something to represent the world somehow. You need sound. You need realistic sound and sound effects and voices. You need lighting, and you need some interaction and possibly some haptic feedback, because the sensory experience is, of course, the first step towards making the user believe he's actually in a virtual world. The second most important thing is probably interaction. So giving participants a way to interact with the world. But since we in the real world, we don't have HUDs, heads-up displays, and we don't interact with others with the press of a button, but we interact with the world, we must interact with the world in a believable way, so in a realistic way. And we need to build the tools that our avatar in the virtual world must use to do something. The same things that we would do in the actual world in that situation. The third most important thing is the narrative. We need to create a believable narrative. Because of course, if I am playing a sci-fi video game set on a spaceship, I will probably not question many of the events that happen around me. But if the scenario that I'm experiencing is set in the present day, in an actual city on Earth, I will probably be baffled by unbelievable events, and that will lead me to break the feeling of immersion and presence. So those are probably the main things that help us achieve presence, and with that, believing that we are actually in a VR world. So what about bad practices? Well, first of all, a VR experience should be comfortable. A bad VR experience that may lead to cyber sickness or virtual kinetosis will make me remember the experience not for what it tried to teach me, but for how bad I felt during or after the experience. So in order to avoid cyber sickness, we definitely don't want sudden camera movements. We don't want to force the gaze of the user in a direction where they're not looking, and we don't want to show them sudden movements, shakes, bright colors, or anything that may cause them to feel sick. That happens because our eyes are seeing motion, our inner ear is perceiving that we are standing or sitting still, and that dissonance makes our brain believe it's being poisoned or something. So it is very bad, and it causes sickness usually. So that's the most important thing to avoid. Another thing we want to avoid is inconsistency. We talked about consistency before, but what happens when you see models that don't respect the right proportions between objects or people and the environment, or even lighting. Different types of textures or shadings and lighting in the environment make it appear made up and fake, breaking the immersion. Finally, a very important thing to remember is how emotion plays a role in these kinds of situations. In a virtual reality experience, we are far more involved than we are just watching a video. That means that graphic imagery or something that can be shocking is felt much more severely by sensitive participants. So we must be careful not to trigger a bad reaction from them with graphic imagery or with content that may not be suitable for all the people that might participate in the experience. So if we can use those best practices and avoid the bad practices, we are on the right track for creating a good, believable virtual reality experience that can actually teach something and be useful. So, thank you for your time and goodbye.